welcome everyone to the second episode of Chit Chat Shit with
Carolyn.
and Carla, and we're C squared. We are so glad that you are joining us in this journey of fun, silliness, and growth. Won't you say it, Carolyn?
Yeah. And just dealing with life. We go through so much drama, so much mess, so much crap. And finally, at a stage in life to be able to talk about it. Our generation, we grew up where you did not talk about it. I
Yeah.
look at our children's generation, the millennials, they talk about it and they'll post everything and anything. But we didn't do that. And here we are in our 50s deciding we need to talk up. We need to share the mess, put
Yes.
it out there, not to dog anybody, not to insult, not to do any of that, but simply as a freeing method. It is time for us to come out of our shells, time for us to come out of bondage of whatever kind it is, and be true to yourself and enjoy yourself. That's also part of it. So that's why we're here, and hopefully something will be said or done that will get you to giggle, to smile, to laugh, or to even check yourself. And we're not looking to check anybody else. We're
But
dealing
ourselves, because we know that we got our own plank in our eyes. So we can't tell you about anybody else but about our plank in our eyes.
Yepper, and talking about how those planks nearly blinded us, and what, truth be told, for a period of time actually did. But now being able to look at that stuff and say, hey, hopefully somebody else will learn from us and not have to repeat some stuff. And before we go into our topic, tying that in, we have this one sibling who she only got one spanking from our father. I got numerous. And I ended up finding out why she only had one spanking. Did you ever find out why she only had one?
I heard the story. Please share it though. Yes.
Well, the bottom line is she saw what we did to get the whooping or the smack or the punishment or the timeout. Well, we didn't call it timeout back then. It was something else. But she saw it. And she's like, not going to do that. Ain't going to go there. Ain't going to say that. I'm good. She learned. She observed. And as a result, to this day, she still lives that way. And it's just hilariously beautiful to me. So we're sharing some of the whoopings that we've gotten through life, hoping that no matter what age you are, you ain't got to go through some of that. This unnecessary pain. That's unnecessary pain.
That is so true, because some of us can learn by somebody else's experience, but some of us are hard-headed and decide we want to go through it ourselves. Someone tells you, don't jump over the fence because there's a dog. Oh, no, there's not. So you jump over the fence, you get bitten. Somebody else is like, oh, no, I heard what they said. I don't have to jump over the fence.
Yes.
But so we're hoping to reach those of you who decided you don't need to necessarily go down the same path that we did, that you could take a lesson and you can pivot.
Yes, I like that word, Carla.
Yes. I'm a wannabe dancer. Pivot.
Dance on, sister girl, dance on. My word for pivot is shift, but it's the tie-in. It's time to turn.
Yeah.
It's time to do something different. And we've heard the expression, what do you call insanity? In essence, doing the same thing over again and expecting change. And it doesn't happen. So we need to change. And this is us in our changing process.
And that's the word for today, guys. Pivot. Oops, I thought I'm sharing it, but let me show you. That's the word for today. We want you to pivot. Look it up. We're applying it. We hope when we finish this particular broadcast that there's something in your life where you can say, I'm going to pivot. And we're going to use that word later on after we finish this particular illustration on the chit chat shit. But one of the things too, our children didn't grow up hearing us curse. We didn't. And so they've had to adjust to hearing us say that, because again, it's not the worst foul letter word, but when you don't grow up hearing your parents saying any kind of foul letter words, we didn't say 4-letter words. So
we didn't even use stupid. We didn't use liar. We didn't do and use certain words. You have to say that's a fib or that's not the truth.
But that's a
You didn't say,
story.
oh, that's a story. You didn't say you lie or you're a liar. You got, well, I got slapped. You didn't do that. And so I recognize my children also have to pivot. They have to shift. So much so that growing up, they knew when we would watch movies, honey, if they had more than 2 or 3 curse words, we turning that thing off.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I actually would sit in the movie, or well, we didn't go to the movie theater, but that's a different story anytime. But if I'm watching a movie, if I heard, I would count the curse words, and here I am. What happened? Well, I have to pivot.
That's right. So we're shifting and we're coming to you with a particular scenario that we've encountered. And we're going to share with you the life lessons we've learned. So, a dear friend of ours, a person we know and love and care about,
Very good.
they have had some drying issues with their dryer. And keep in mind, they've been having issues with their dryer for over a year, if not more, Carolyn.
Oh, it's been longer, darling. It has to be at least 7 years because
Okay.
it has to be over 7 years. I dare say maybe even 10, but let's go ahead.
Okay. So, for about 7 years, there's been a dryer issue. And so I think it was last year when this person had some guests come over. One of their guests decided to gift them with some money to buy a dryer, if I remember correctly.
The key thing was the dryer wouldn't dry quickly. So you
Mhm.
would put in a load of clothes and you would have to put it through at least 3 times to get your clothes dry. So she was gifted with money to buy a dryer.
Okay, so she was gifted with money to buy a dryer. Because keep in mind, the loads aren't being dried. It's taking extra energy, cost to dry a load, taking
And
forever.
sometimes you'd have to go outside and hang them outside on the clothesline. I know some folk are like, what? But if you're from my generation, chances are you know what a clothesline is. So go ahead, Carla.
So now, move forward a year has passed, and I happen to come onto the scene, and I have to deal with this particular dryer situation as well. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Why this dryer isn't working? And I was aware that they had been given money to buy a dryer. So the person says, well, I really want a gas dryer and not an electric dryer. And said, well, and I said, well, in order for you to have a gas dryer, what do you need to do? And they said, well, there's so many different steps to get it. And I said, well, since that seems to be out of the question, why don't you just get another electric dryer and let's be done with it? They said, well, oh no, the store when I checked didn't said they didn't have any. Now keep in mind, they checked a year ago. Haven't checked since. And I said, well, let's go to the store, one of the favorite stores where you can buy things, and let's go see that. So we get to the store and we don't see any on the floor. But I said, let's ask the person who works here. I said, do you have any electric dryers? They said, yes, we do, but we keep them in the back because we don't really sell that many. The person came out and told us they had 2 in stock. So the person looked at the 2 in stock and made a decision to purchase one. And I was going to help this person with this. And we scheduled the delivery to be 3 days after the weekend, 3 days later. But this particular delivery service was not going to remove the old one. We would have to do it ourselves. So
Mhm.
I'm going to assist this person to get this dryer out of the space so we can have it ready when the delivery comes. I begin to do that. And so I unplugged something. It appears to be an electric dryer, but then at the bottom of the dryer, there's a hose attached to it. And I said to the person, what is this? She's like, I don't know what it is. And I take a picture of it and show her. And I said, it says a gas connector. And she said, a gas connector? So, first of all, she says, I need to find out about this. And she said, can you unscrew it? And first of all, I say, no way am I touching anything with gas because I am not a qualified person to deal with this.
I know that's right.
I don't need something to explode or monoxide. What is the word?
Carbon monoxide, dioxide,
Monoxide.
whatever.
So we determine through a series of events that she has what she's been wanting.
All this time.
All this time, she had a gas dryer. But we still now have to, of course, we had to now go and cancel that order because we need a gas dryer, not electric dryer. But in moving the gas dryer out from the wall, I discovered a few things. I discovered that the vent, that this flexible thing right here had holes in it, and that there was a buildup in the vent, guys. So for those of you listening, this is the flexible part that connects the dryer to the hole that may go to the venting outside your apartment. But the flexible part that connects the dryer to the outlet for where the lint collects, it is now stuffed and damp. I'm like, oh my goodness. Again, I'm down there on the floor, y'all. I need some sympathy. On the ground. So I picked this up and I showed it to the person and said, this has holes in it. It's not working. Let's try the dryer without that on and see if it heats up. The person says, well, it heats up. It just takes long to heat up. But I said, well, let's just try it to see. Let's just try it. I'm asking y'all to try something. So we turned on the dryer, and lo and behold, in 2 seconds, that thing hot to the touch. Hot to the touch. And so we realized, guys, that all we needed to do was
clean out the vent.
Replace it. It could have been cleaned out, but this one had holes in it.
Oh God!
This one had been dented to the side, so the flow was stopping the circulation. So we actually had to replace. The good thing is, though, you know how much this cost, guys, to replace? You know how much this was?
Tell us.
Like $14 or so. You know how much it was to replace a dryer? It starts like at 800, well, 600 and up, depending on how many bells and whistles you want. And so Carolyn and I have decided we're going to share the lessons of the vent.
And the lessons are numerous. So when we're talking about this chit-chat shit, it ties into with us. We call each other regularly and just share about something funny, something silly. But inevitably, it seems like some life lesson or some aha moment, some epiphany takes place. And when she was telling me this story, I tell you, so many things went through my mind. So here's one of them. One was, all this time, I had heard that particular person talk about wanting a gas dryer. That was like their dream thing. I want a gas dryer. Because see, all this time, they thought they had an electric dryer. And for me, that thing just resonated. The very thing she wanted, she had. And I thought about me in my life. So many times I'm like, I want this, I want that. And then coming to a point realizing, but I got that.
Yes.
I have that. And here I am, just like she got to a point where she finally was like, okay, we're going to get rid of it. Well, I take that back. She wasn't really at that point. You were the one who pushed her, if you will, to that point. And sometimes we do need people in our lives to help push us to certain points to be able to take some action. And in you doing that, look what opened up. She did not have to get rid of what she really wanted because she had it already.
And I want to piggyback on that when Carolyn said that so often it needs somebody looking in from the outside
Yep.
sometimes to share some insight. And that's a come we must be willing to be accountable to somebody,
Yeah.
because
Good.
one of the things that I learned, I'm a certified DISC behavioral consultant, and we talk about a blind spot and how we teach people that you don't recognize your blind spot. And it's just like if I had spinach in my teeth, unless I'm in a mirror, I won't know that until somebody else looking in could see my blind spot. And when I shared it with that person, it was like they finally were able to move some action. One of the things is they felt they needed help anyway. And so that's where we come in. And again, I'm going to piggyback again on therapy and on coaching. Carolyn does some coaching. I do some coaching.
Mhm.
One of our sponsors, Relevant Connection, they do some, they recommend social workers or therapists, because sometimes you can't recognize something because you've lived with it so long. This person would go out and pull up this rack to dry clothes on that took more effort each time.
Mhm.
And their ability to do so was waning a bit due to some other issues. And I need you guys out there to decide whether or not you need to get unstopped.
Good, good, good.
Because, we talk about chit chat shit. So we're going to use some analogies. So just like when you have to go and plunge out a toilet, when there's a plunger, this time it was us trying to unplug or
Yeah.
unplunge this vent. But in our relationships, sometimes we want to throw somebody away and get a new one when really there's just some maintenance that you need to do. So, who
Yeah.
in your life have you decided you want to get rid of or throw out? And really, if you looked at it, all you may have to do is some maintenance and change some tubing, learn some boundaries, learn how to share those boundaries, and you won't have to throw the whole relationship away. You don't have to spend $800 on a dryer. You just spend $12 on the vent.
Mhm. Yeah. And tying that in back to the relationship aspect, that means going out, doing some date nights. For those of us who are in relationships, who are married, or who are in relationships with a partner or someone, take some time for yourself. Do some date nights or try something different, and take some time to step and look at the situation, because in pulling that from the wall, that opened up a whole new area. So for some folk, for some folk, it might have been that in looking to get a divorce or in looking to get rid of the relationship, they're like, well, this is it. And in going through that process, they discovered this does not have to be it. So sometimes you might have to go down that process, that journey. That may be a wake-up call for some people. It was a wake-up call for her to readjust some of
Mm-hmm.
her thinking process. It may be
Mm-hmm.
the same for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So it just varies.
And that's good, because what we're saying is that we know that all situations won't be fixed by this. Because if we had decided that this was not the problem, she would have needed a new dryer. And so, even when it comes to some relationships or other things, we're not saying that that's the end. Sometimes it may require
Yeah.
to replace something, but we do believe in looking and examining it before you throw something else out and somebody else buys your car, for instance, and you thought it was like $5,000 and it just needed a spark plug, and you trashed it and they got a working automobile because you just didn't know what to do with it. So that's the beauty in what we're trying to share about this
And I
this
want to add another tie-in. I've been married for 35 years. So someone like me may decide and say, listen, I've invested too much in this. So to just purchase a $14.99 tubing versus now have to deal with, okay, I'm going to have to look for my own apartment. I'm going to have to look to now do this, do that, or the other. And all I got to do is work on some new vents. Someone like me, I will look to try to process and try the vent. But then now, for somebody else, they were like, listen, I don't care if the vent works. I'm out. I want a new dryer. I want a spanking new dryer. And the beautiful thing is, then that's the beautiful thing. That's your option. You can choose to go in that way. So we're not saying to you any which way or the other. We're just putting out, these are different options. These are different possibilities. These are different ways to look at a situation. So that was one for me. What she really wanted, turns out she had all along. And I think about some of us with some of the guys in our lives, with some of the people in our lives that we tend to take advantage of or tend to take them for granted.
Yes.
Where other people are like, man, you're so lucky, you're so blessed, you're so fortunate, you're so whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And just being able to look at life from the perspective of the very thing I'm looking for, I got. So for you to just be able to stop to say, okay, wait a minute. I've been saying all this time I want X. Being able to stop and say, okay, maybe I actually have X. Let me look at this thing. Let me reevaluate some things. Let me pivot. So that was one of the lessons. Did you want to share one of the ones you learned, you got from it, Carla?
Oh, and I'm getting ready to put because I liked what you said there. What is your X? And I want us to think about that. What is it in your life? We want, as we talk and share, we really want you to have some growth moments. We want to inspire you and challenge you to pull out the plank in your eye. We're not looking at anybody else's but our own because we don't need to look at your splinter. We're looking at our plank. So, what is your X? What is that something for you that you need to challenge yourself? And be honest with it. Be accountable. Be honest with yourself. If it's one person you should be honest with, is yourself. We could be delusional with it, everybody else, you know. But with me, I got to be honest with myself.
And the thing about it is, you may think you're delusional with other people, but other folk can see your stuff. They can clearly see it and can call you out. But part of this thing is being willing to let people call you out. And I'm not talking about getting where somebody's just trashing you and dogging you out. No, calling you out and dogging you out are two different things. We're talking about someone who you know cares about you, wants to see you grow, and has shown that consistently, and not playing this stupid game of, no.
But you see, I want to challenge what Carolyn says, because even if they don't have your best interest at heart, sometimes someone can say something to you and it really needs to cause you to check yourself and grow, because your enemies or people, they still can say something that will be instrumental to us. And I know sometimes we get sensitive and won't take what somebody says. Is like, who do they think they are? But I found in my life that the people who weren't necessarily close to me said something, and I'm like, well, let me take away what I need to take away
good
this situation and leave the other shit behind. Because again, the scripture says, for those who like scripture, it says man meant it for evil. So they may have a whole different agenda for this foolishness and the shit they're gonna dip out. But as I said, I'm gonna take this manure and some flowers getting ready to grow up in my shit.
And you know what? I appreciate that. That's a valid one. So see, you got some different options again.
Yes. Cool. Yes. And so then the question we need to ask our listeners as we kind of start wrapping things up is, what do you need to pivot? Is there something in your life that you can identify? And we're not saying to make a whole list. You may just have one thing, because we believe, my favorite little song in Christmas time, which says, put one foot in front of the other. I say we just do one bit at a time. Take one thing. slowly but surely, what is it you need to do? Do you need to learn to sit up a little bit straighter so that you can, that is symbolic in finally being able to think a little bit more of yourself so you could slowly get a voice. I can't tell you all of a sudden to get a voice and to create boundaries because it starts slowly. Just the mere fact of you sitting up straighter in your chair is a step of moving in that direction
Mm.
to slowly build your confidence. Nobody else may know that little slight touch that you did, but just putting your shoulders back a little bit more is your way of saying, you know what, I'm going to pivot in this area. I'm going to start thinking a little bit more of myself and believing that I can do all things. I can fulfill my purpose. So I want you to identify that. And if you choose to, you can put that in the comment section on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook page and tell us what that is, because that's what we want to do. Create something for you that you need to pivot. I know for me, pivoting in the way I think about different
Oh
things,
gosh, me too.
controlling that thought life for me. And we're going to talk about that another day because Carolyn and I were talking about fear. So we're gonna be talking about some stuff. But today we just wanted to share about unplugging and discovering the vent, what was in the vent. So $12.99 or whatever versus $600-700 for a dryer.
Yeah.
What can you do?
And Carla, I'm going to add, when you were looking to get that, you were on the ground, on the floor, and that area. And we know if you wash clothes and you with a dry, you know that down in that area is not pretty. Is not the cleanest.
Filthy, filthy, dead roaches that's
Yeah.
been behind stuff.
So there's sometimes when it gets ugly,
Yeah.
it gets dirty, it is messy, it is it.
Yes.
And the truth is nothing pleasant, smelling pleasant, looking at. It's not a pleasant situation, but a necessary situation. It's a necessary thing that needs to be addressed. And in taking the time to finally just say, I'm going to tackle this, because, like, for your knowledge, it had been at least a year that this situation was going on. I know it has been literally about 7. But now this is where I'll confess, I was like, I had some moments of thinking about maybe we could buy her one. But then it was a nice thought, then it would leave. And it turns out somebody else literally went ahead and did what I thought. But the thing is, it took some time to just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Didn't feel like doing it, didn't
Right.
necessarily want to do it, but
Correct.
did it. And in doing it, some wonderful discoveries and unplugged,
Yeah. Yeah.
unplugged.
Yeah.
And there's something beautiful about being unplugged.
Yeah.
And there's so much to that. Unplugged, sometimes from social media, unplugged from family and friends, unplugged from the church for a while, unplugged with your own mind. Take some time. We love playing board games. Unplugged from doing whatever to play some board games. Sometimes we play too much, so unplugged from the board games. Whatever it is, just taking some time to
Mhm.
unplug.
Oh, I
So
love
you can
that.
heat up again.
Yeah.
Heat up again and work to the fullest for what the manufacturers intended for you to work.
Yes.
You know? So
Yes.
anyway,
Yes.
that's
So, guys, that 30 minutes have gone by so quickly, but we're so glad that you chose to tune in. Feel free to share. You can find us on Apple and on Spotify. But we're excited about this journey as we continue to share how we are pivoting in our own way and
yeah.
that you too can pivot if you change your mindset. Know that you can follow Carolyn at Going Godward Ministries, and
On
she's
Facebook.
available on Facebook. Yes, she's available to do her speaking at any of your events. So get her, and you can follow me on um,
Coach.
social media as well too, Coach Carla Henry Lewis. I love to help people identify their communication language. That's the first thing that is just beautiful. We do that with our DISC assessment because many of us just don't know how to communicate well. We talk about love language. I want to give you your communication language. But thank you guys for tuning in for our second episode. And we can't wait to hear your comments and your thoughts. So till the next time, Laverne, ciao.
Hasta
I mean,
luego.
Carolyn, ciao.
Chao.
Bye.
Bye. Adiós, chiquitita.